The cold air inside the underground prison was thick with silence. Long, metal chains stretched across the floor, heavy and unmoving. The walls were tall, black and smooth like polished stone. There were no windows, only dim blue lights glowing faintly in the corners. No sound could be heard, except the soft hiss of machines keeping the place alive. In the deepest cell of that forgotten place, she knelt. Everyone called her the monster. She wasn't human. Her skin was a smooth, dark violet, glowing softly with thin lines of light. Her long black hair floated like silk, tangled with glowing wires. Her eyes, strange and bright, looked almost like stars. Thick cables wrapped around her arms, chest, and legs. She was chained at the wrists, ankles, and neck. Most people feared her. Others wanted her dead, but no one dared go near her. Except him. His name was Davis Carter. He was just an engineer. A human sent to help rebuild the city after the last war. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't carry a weapon. But when he heard rumors of a creature locked beneath the council's tower, something pulled him in. They told him she was dangerous, unpredictable, made for destruction. But he didn't believe them. Not fully. So, on that cold morning, Davis walked down the metal stairs, guided by two silent alien guards. His boots echoed with each step. The guards didn't speak to him, just opened the final gate with shaking hands. And then he saw her. She didn't look up. She just knelt there motionless. Her head was down. Her long hair covered her face. Steam rose from her body as if she were giving off heat. She hasn't moved in days, one guard whispered nervously. She's sleeping. Or pretending. 2. If she speaks, don't answer. Davis nodded. But he wasn't afraid. He took a slow step forward, his eyes fixed on the figure in chains. He stopped just a few meters away and knelt down. Hello? He said quietly. Silence. Another step. Closer. The guards tensed, gripping their weapons. Davis spoke again. Can you hear me? Still no reply. But then slowly her head lifted. Their eyes met. Davis felt his heart skip. Her eyes were glowing, white with streaks of violet, deep and full of something strange, something broken. You're not afraid? She said softly. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. But there was pain in it. Davis blinked. Should I be? She tilted her head. Everyone else is. I'm not everyone else. A pause. Then she smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was bitter. They think I'm a weapon, a mistake, a thing to fear. What do you see? Davis didn't answer right away. He looked at her again, at the tight cuffs around her wrists, the old scars on her neck, the way her shoulders hung like she carried the weight of the galaxy. I see someone who's been hurt, he said. The smile faded. She looked away. Why are you really here, human? I wanted to see you, the truth, not stories. The truth is ugly. Sometimes, yes. But sometimes it just needs someone brave enough to face it. She went silent again. Then she whispered, almost like a child, My name is Velrus. Davis leaned closer. Velrus, he repeated gently. That single moment when she shared her name was more powerful than any weapon. The guards didn't understand what they had just witnessed. They only saw a human talking to a beast. But Davis saw something more. He saw a soul. Velrus looked at him again and said, You should go. If they find out you spoke to me, they'll silence you. I don't care, Davis said. She stared at him for a long time. Then she whispered, Then you're either a fool or the first kind soul I've met in 100 years. He stood up slowly. Maybe both. As Davis turned to leave her, voice stopped him one last time. Will you come back? He looked over his shoulder. Her eyes glowed softly. Hope just a little shine through the darkness. Yes, he said. And then the doors shut behind him. Davis couldn't sleep that night. Velrus's voice stayed in his mind. Her glowing eyes, her broken whisper. Will you come back? She wasn't what the world said she was. Not a beast, not a monster. She spoke with sorrow, not rage. And she had a name, a beautiful one, Velrus. But Davis also knew the risk. Visiting her once was dangerous. Going again? That could get him imprisoned. Or worse still, the next day, he returned. He brought a bag with him. Inside were 3 things: a blanket, a bottle of water, and a small book, a simple Earth novel. He didn't know if she would care, but he wanted to show her kindness. The same 2 guards opened the cell gate. This time, they didn't speak. They only watched him with confused eyes. Maybe they thought he was insane. Davis walked in slowly. Velrus was still in the same place, kneeling, head down, unmoving. He took a deep breath. "It's me, Davis." She didn't look up. "I brought something," he added, stepping closer. "Well, a few things." Still nothing. He placed the blanket beside her, then the bottle of water. Carefully, gently, "Are you hungry?" He asked. Nothing. And then he saw something. A small drop fell from her cheek. Another one followed. It wasn't sweat. And it wasn't from pain. She was crying. Davis froze. His chest tightened. This creature feared across the galaxy was silently weeping like a child. He knelt down slowly. "Velrus." She spoke without looking at him. "Why do you keep coming?" "Because I want to know who you really are." She turned her face. Slightly, the tears glowed faint violet, like starlight. "You're kind," she whispered. "That's dangerous in this place." Davis gave a small smile. "I get that a lot." She finally looked at him. "You brought water?" He nodded and gently passed her the bottle. Her fingers trembled as she took it, like she hadn't touched anything free in years. She sipped carefully, then paused. "It's cold." "Better than the stuff they give here," Davis said. "That's more like engine oil." Velrus gave the tiniest chuckle. It sounded like music buried under rubble. Then she noticed the book. "What is that?" "An Earth story," Davis said. "It's called The Little Firebird. It's about a creature who everyone feared. But in the end, she saves the world." Velrus touched the cover gently. "They told me stories once. Before they chained me." Davis tilted his head. "Would you like me to read it to you?" Velrus stared at him like he'd offered her the stars. Then she gave a quiet nod. So Davis opened the book. His voice echoed softly through the cold chamber. He read slowly, clearly, letting each word hang in the air. Velrus closed her eyes, listening. For a few minutes, the prison didn't feel like a prison anymore. It felt like peace. When Davis closed the book, Velrus spoke again. "Do you know why I was created?" He looked at her carefully. "No. Only what they say." "They say I'm a weapon," she said. "That I destroyed cities. That I burned armies." Davis stayed silent. "Some of it is true," she added softly. "But only because they made me fight. I didn't want to. I was born in a lab, built to protect. But when I became stronger than my creators, they turned against me." Davis felt cold. Velrus looked into his eyes. "Do you know the first thing I did when I escaped the lab?" He shook his head. "I saved a child," she said. "A little girl caught in a burning tower. I flew into the fire and pulled her out. She smiled at me, called me an angel." Davis felt his throat tighten, but then her father saw me. And he screamed. She looked down again. "They bombed the area 5 minutes later. Said it was to contain the threat. I barely survived." Davis whispered. "I'm so sorry." Velrus didn't reply. She just stared at her chained hands. "You're not a weapon," Davis said firmly. "You're a person." She smiled again. But this time, it was warmer. "No one has ever said that to me." Davis reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal coin. It wasn't valuable, but it had a human symbol on it. A tiny earth tree. He placed it in her hand. "A gift. To remind you you're not forgotten." Velrus looked at it like it was a treasure from a lost world. "I'll come again," Davis said. She nodded. "But be careful, Davis. They're watching." "No," he replied, "but you're worth the risk." As he left the prison, the guards whispered behind him. They didn't understand. But they had seen the impossible. The monster had cried, and the human hadn't run. The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful. Davis couldn't stop thinking about Velrus. Her eyes, her voice, her tears. He kept hearing her say, "No one has ever said that to me." He knew what he had seen in that cell wasn't a weapon or a monster. He had seen a person tired, wounded, but still alive inside, still hopeful, still human, in a way that no one else dared to believe. But something else had changed too. Whispers were spreading. The guards had told someone. The alien council had taken notice, and now Davis was being watched. They didn't ask questions directly. Not yet. But the looks, the sudden security checks, the silence in the air, they told him enough. He had crossed a line, and he was going to cross it again. This time, when Davis walked into the prison, the guards gave him cold stares. "No gifts today," one said sharply. "Orders from the top." Davis said nothing. He had hidden a small item in his boot anyway. They opened the gate. The heavy doors groaned like they were in pain. Inside, Velrus was sitting this time. She had pulled the blanket across her legs, trying to feel something warm in the freezing dark. When she saw him, her eyes lit up, not with power, but with something far more dangerous in this place. "Trust. You came back," she whispered. "I told you I would." She smiled gently. "I didn't believe you, not really." "I guess I like to surprise people," Davis said, sitting cross-legged across from her. They were quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward and said softly, "Velrus, can I ask you something?" "Yes. What did they call you before all this?" She blinked. "You mean before the chains?" He nodded. "Before they called you a monster." She looked down. Her hands tightened in the cables around her arms. "There was a time," she said slowly, "when I had another name. But not many used it. I had a caretaker, an old woman. She worked in the lab. She called me Luma. It means light." Davis's heart jumped. "That's beautiful." Velrus looked surprised. "You really think so?" "Yes, because that's what you are." She smiled. Then, softly, almost brokenly, she said, "But when the war started, they stripped that name from my file. They erased it. They said a weapon doesn't need a name." Davis leaned forward. "Then let me say it again, Luma." The name echoed gently in the room, like the start of a new story. Her eyes shimmered. "I forgot how it felt to hear it like that." Then Davis reached into his boot and carefully pulled out the hidden item, a small photograph, printed from an old Earth memory chip. It showed a little human girl, smiling with her alien friend. Side by side, no fear, just joy. He placed it between them. Velrus looked at it, eyes wide. "Who are they?" "A girl I met on another planet. Her name was Aya. She found the wounded alien once, saved his life. They became family." Velrus stared at the photo for a long time. "It's possible then," she whispered. "To be something more. To be seen as more," Davis corrected. "You always were more." Her hands shook slightly. "I'm afraid, Davis. If they see me happy, if they see me hope, they'll destroy me. Then we'll hide that hope until it's strong enough to shine." For a moment, the prison wasn't cold anymore. It felt like sunrise. But sunrise never lasts in a place like this. Later that night, the alarms rang. Someone had broken into the security server. Files had been stolen. Guards ran through the halls with weapons drawn. One of them stormed into Davis's quarters. "Where were you last night?" The alien officer demanded. "I was asleep," Davis said calmly. The officer stared at him, hard. "You're protecting it." "The creature," Davis said nothing. The officer leaned closer. "We know she speaks to you. We know you've brought her things. That's illegal. We're watching you, human." Then the officer left. Davis sat down slowly, his hands trembling. The storm was coming. Back in the prison, Velrus sat in the darkness. She held the photo in her hands. She traced the edges gently. She whispered to herself, "Luma, I remember." Now then she looked toward the door, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a monster. She felt like someone, because someone had dared to see her. Someone had called her by her name. Asterisk, the stars above the alien city were hidden that night. Clouds hung low, heavy with electric storms. Thunder rolled across the skies as if warning the world of something coming. Inside the human quarters, Davis sat alone, staring at a locked datapad on his table. The words "restricted access, Class 9. Weapon file" blinked red across the screen. He had done something dangerous. He had hacked into the archives. Because after everything Velrus Luma had told him, he couldn't stop wondering, what if she was telling the truth? What if they weren't just holding her, but hiding her? He typed in the last override code. The screen blinked once, then opened. Davis leaned closer. What he saw made his heart drop. Velrus wasn't created to destroy. She was created to protect. The project name was Guardian Star. It was a peace initiative by an old alliance of alien races. They wanted to create a being strong enough to stop wars without bloodshed, someone powerful but kind. Someone to defend, not destroy. Velrus had been their best success. She saved lives. She ended invasions. She stopped an asteroid from wiping out a moon colony. She was a hero, until she refused to obey one deadly order: destroy a neutral planet suspected of hiding rebels. She said no. They called it malfunction. They called her broken. And then they locked her away. Davis stared at the footage. A recording showed Velrus cradling an injured alien child in her arms, shielding them from gunfire. Another clip showed her crying in a courtroom, shouting, "I am not your slave." And then the files stopped, deleted, wiped clean from public view. The world never knew the truth. They had buried her. Story under fear. They turned a savior into a monster. Davis copied everything. He hid the dataship inside a hollow pen. Then he stood up and walked out into the storm. He didn't care anymore. They could watch him. They could threaten him, but he had seen the truth, and she deserved to know. That night, Davis returned to the prison again. This time, without asking permission. He snuck through maintenance tunnels, bypassed cameras, and reached the lower gate. Alone. When he reached Velrus's cell, she was already awake, her glowing eyes watching the door like she knew he would come. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I had to," Davis replied. He stepped inside, soaked in rain, breath shaky. "I found it," he said. His wrist blinked. "Found what?" "The truth. About you. About everything." He pulled the chip from his pen and slotted it into the wall reader. A soft hum filled the room. A screen lit up in the corner. Images flickered: her missions, her victories, the moment she refused the order, and the moment they locked her away. Velrus stood slowly. Her chains rattled. She watched the footage with wide eyes. Then she covered her mouth, shaking. "I thought they destroyed these records," she whispered. "They tried, but they failed." She turned to Davis, eyes glowing brighter. Not with rage, but with something deeper. Recognition. "You believed me," she said. "I did. But now I know." Velrus sat down slowly, as if her legs were too weak to stand. Her whole body trembled. "I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dreaming." "No," Davis said. "You were telling the truth. And they tried to erase you." Velrus looked up. Why did you come back for me?" He didn't speak for a long moment. Then he said, "Because someone had to." Above the prison, the council members met in secret. An alarm had triggered. Unauthorized access. The old recordings had been opened. One elder stood up. We cannot let the humans share this. Another one whispered, the girl. If she is seen as a hero again, she'll inspire rebellion. She'll remind the people what we did. They all looked at one another. Then came the order. Terminate Velrus, immediately. Back in the cell, Velrus whispered, I want to see the sky again. You will, Davis said. I'll get you out of here. How? I don't know. But I will. Suddenly, the lights in the prison turned red. A siren began to wail. Velrus stood. They know. Davis ran to the door. No, not yet. The wall speaker crackled. A voice spoke coldly. Subject Velrus has been scheduled for destruction. All staff clear the sector. Velrus looked at Davis. Go. No. They'll kill you too. I don't care. She grabbed his hand. Her touch was warm, shaking. You gave me my name back, she said softly. Now go, live. That's all I ever wanted. Davis looked into her eyes. I'm not leaving you. The alarm was louder now, like the walls themselves were screaming. Red lights blinked across the prison ceiling. Heavy doors slammed shut across the levels above. Automated security bots moved in fast, scanning and locking down hallways. Electric panels charged up. This wasn't a warning dot, it was an execution. Davis grabbed Velrus's hand tighter. We have to go, now. Velrus looked at the red lights, then at him. The chains, they won't open. I'll find a way, Davis said, already pulling. A small tool from his belt. The guards weren't coming this time. The council didn't want witnesses. Davis's hands moved fast. He cut into the chain locks with a laser cutter. Sparks flew as metal screamed. One by one, the cables snapped. Velrus flinched. If I use my power to break free, the sensors will trigger the failsafe. Failsafe? They'll vaporize this whole floor. They made sure I could never fight back. Davis gritted his teeth. Then we'll break the rules before they do. The final chain fell off her ankle with a heavy thud. Velrus stood slowly. Her body was tall, graceful, powerful, but trembling. Not from fear. From too many years without freedom. Follow me, Davis said, opening a hidden side panel in the wall. This way leads to the old waste tunnels. She paused. You planned this? I hoped I wouldn't have to. They moved fast through narrow tunnels, the ceiling low and dripping. The floor was slippery. Pipes hissed with pressure. Each step echoed through metal and silence. Behind them, the prison shook. They've activated the failsafe, Velrus whispered. We have minutes. How many? Maybe 5. They pushed faster. Above ground, the city was still asleep. But high above, warships hovered. Spotlights searched the rooftops. Drones buzzed, scanning every exit route. The council wasn't taking chances. Inside a dark control room, a commander stared at a screen. The human is with her, he said coldly. Another officer asked, should we take him alive? The commander narrowed his eyes. No, he's already chosen a side. Davis and Velrus reached an old maintenance shaft. A long ladder went up to a sealed door. I can't open this one, Davis said, panting. Too old. Too many locks. Velrus stepped forward. Let me try. Her hand glowed with soft violet light. For a moment, Davis flinched, worried she might trigger the failsafe, but she didn't use force. She used precision. Tiny filaments of light danced from her fingertips, flowing into the lock like liquid. The old bolts clicked. The panel sighed and opened. Davis stared. How did you? She smiled slightly. I wasn't just made to fight. They climbed into the open night. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold. The ground above the prison was rocky and full of broken towers. The old city ruins, the perfect place to hide. Velrus looked up at the sky. She hadn't seen stars in decades. She whispered, It's beautiful. But the moment didn't last. A drone light flashed across the ground. They found us. Davis. shouted Velris, grabbed his hand and pulled him behind a collapsed wall. The drone scanned the area again, then flew on. We can't outrun them forever, Davis said. We need a ship. Velris pointed toward the east. There's an old port abandoned. If the power grid still runs underground, maybe, just maybe I can start something. Davis nodded. Then let's go. They moved through ruins, careful and fast. The city lights in the distance blinked like angry eyes. As they reached the edge of the port zone, Davis noticed something strange. Velris was getting stronger. Her steps were faster. Her voice was steadier. Her eyes brighter. You're healing, he said. I think. Being free makes me stronger, she replied. Then she stopped. They had reached the hangar. Inside, dust covered everything. Old fighters, rusted engines, scattered crates. But one sleek black scout ship rested in the back, half covered with tarps. Velris stepped forward. This one. I remember it. You flew this? I built it. Long ago. She walked to the control panel. Her hand hovered over it, glowing faintly. Power cells dead, she muttered. But the fusion core might still respond. She looked at Davis. I'll need 5 minutes. You'll have 2, Davis replied, drawing a stolen plasma cutter. They'll be here any second. She smiled. Then I better hurry. Outside the hangar, a squad of elite guards landed quietly. Targets inside. Orders, kill them both. Velris sat inside the cockpit, eyes closed, hands glowing. She spoke in a language Davis didn't understand. Smooth and ancient. The ship began to hum. Lights flickered. The engines rumbled. Outside, Davis heard footsteps. Too many. He stood at the door, weapon ready. But the truth was, he wasn't a soldier. He was just a man who believed she deserved to live. The first shot rang out. He ducked, fired back. Then a bolt hit his shoulder. He fell. Davis! Velris cried out. The ship roared to life. She stepped out of the cockpit, eyes blazing with light. She didn't fight with fists. She pulsed energy calm. Bright waves that knocked the guards back without killing. She walked through fire like it meant nothing. When she reached Davis, she knelt beside him. He was bleeding but conscious. You came back, he whispered. You were never alone, she replied. She lifted him gently into the ship. As the hangar doors opened and they rose into the sky, more drones chased them. But Velris didn't run. She soared. And in that moment, the monster became a legend. The stars blurred past the cockpit as the small scout ship flew into the upper atmosphere. Davis was strapped into the co-pilot seat, holding his injured shoulder, pain burning through his arm. Sweat rolled down his face, but he stayed conscious barely. He looked beside him. Velris sat in the pilot's chair. Her hands moved like they remembered everything. Even though it had been years, she flew the ship like she was born inside it. Her violet eyes focused on the stars, glowing brighter than ever. Behind them, the city lights of the alien world faded away. They had escaped, but not for long. Far above them, 5 sleek warships began to move. Black as night, silent as death. These weren't normal patrols. They were hunters. Inside one of the command ships, the Alien Council's top general leaned forward. She's airborne, he said coldly, and she has the human. An officer replied, should we shoot them down? The general narrowed his eyes. Not yet. I want her back in chains. She'd be made an example. And the human? The general sneered. He dies, slowly. Back in the ship, Davis groaned. Are we safe yet? Velris didn't answer at first. No, she said softly. They'll never stop chasing me, Davis winced. Then we stay ahead of them. Velris glanced at him. You're bleeding badly. I've had worse, Davis lied. Velris reached behind her and pulled out a med kit from the storage panel. She knelt beside him, pressing a healing patch over his wound. As her glowing hands hovered over the patch, the heat faded from his skin. The pain dulled. "You didn't have to come back for me," Davis whispered. She looked into his eyes. "Neither did you." An hour passed. Then an alert blinked on the screen. Tracking signal detected. Enemy ships. Approaching fast, Velrus's. Jaw tightened. "They marked the ship. I should have known." Davis blinked. "You mean they're following us?" "More than that," she said. "They're hunting us." Outside, spacesuited. 4 massive cruisers dropped from hyperspace. "Boxing them in," Velrus cursed under her breath. "Brace yourself." She spun the ship sideways and dived into a meteor field nearby. Chunks of rock floated in zero gravity, spinning slowly. The perfect place to hide or crash. Alarms blared inside the ship. Davis held on as Velrus weaved between the floating boulders. One of the hunter ships followed. Plasma bolts flew past them, lighting the darkness with fire. "We can't outrun them forever," Davis said. "I'm not trying to outrun them," Velrus replied. "I'm leading them." "To what?" She gave a small smile. "To my home." Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, the general stood silently, watching her ship vanish into the rocks. "She's headed to the ruins," one officer said. "The planet marked dead zone." "Good," the general replied. "Let her run to her grave." He turned to the comms. "Send the scouts. I want eyes on her every second, and prepare the ground team. We finish this on the surface." The next planet was dark, cold, and quiet. Once, it was full of life. But long ago, it was wiped out during the early wars. Now just crumbled towers and black deserts. No one lived there anymore, or so they thought. Velrus landed the ship near a broken mountain. As she stepped out, Davis followed slowly, still weak from the wound. "What is this place?" he asked. "My beginning," she said. "This is where they built me, the real lab, the one they erased from history." She walked into a dark tunnel carved into the mountain. The air was stale, the floor cracked, but deep inside, machines still glowed faintly. Silent guardians of the past. Davis looked around, amazed. They destroyed the files, but not this. "No one knew it survived," Velrus said. "They thought I forgot, but I didn't." She reached a glowing console and pressed her hand. To it. It lit up. Old logs, video files, blueprints all came to life. Davis watched a recording of Velrus young, unchained, talking, smiling, flying through stars. She was never meant to be a weapon. She was meant to be hope. "They'll come." "Here," Davis said. "Soon," Velrus nodded. "Then this time, they'll see who I really am." Hours later, the alien ships arrived. Troops landed outside the mountain lab. Tanks rolled across the stone plains. Dozens of soldiers spread out, weapons glowing, ready for war. Inside, Davis looked out a crack in the stone wall. "Too many," he said. "We can't fight them all." Velrus stood tall, light swirling around her arms. "I won't fight them." He turned to her. "What do you mean?" "I'm not going to be the monster they want. I'm going to show them something they've never seen before." "Like what?" She looked into his eyes. "Truth." Outside, the soldiers moved in. Then Velrus stepped out alone. No weapon. No armor. Just herself. The soldiers aimed, but she didn't flinch. Her voice rang out, strong and clear. "I am Velrus. I was built for peace. You turned me into your fear, but I am not yours anymore." Behind her, Davis appeared, holding up a projector disc. He activated it. The recordings from the old lab played above them, her saving lives. Smiling with children, refusing to obey cruel orders. The soldiers stared, some lowered their weapons. Others looked confused. They were told she was a monster, but now they saw a woman who bled, who cried, who stood unafraid in front of death, not to kill, but to be seen. Then someone in the back shouted, "Why is she not attacking?" Another voice said, This isn't right. She's not the enemy." And, just like that, everything began to change. The mountain was silent. Velrus stood in front of dozens of armed soldiers. Her arms were lowered. Her body glowed softly, not in anger, but in calm. She didn't raise a weapon. She didn't fight. Behind her, the old projector floated in the air, still playing the videos from her past. In them. She was not a killer. She was a protector, a healer, a guardian. The soldiers shifted uneasily. They had come to destroy a monster, but now they saw a woman. Broken, brave, and unforgettable. And beside her stood a wounded human Davis, refusing to leave her side. That sight did something no weapon ever could. It made them think. The council's general stood inside his command ship, watching the footage. From a drone above, "She's stalling," he hissed. "End this now." He gave the order, "All troops attack." The sound of energy weapons charging filled the air. Davis stepped forward, blood still staining his shirt. "They're going to fire." Velrus took a deep breath, and for the first time in years, she let go. Not of rage, but of truth. A wave of violet-blue energy spread from her body, gentle, like wind, but impossible to ignore. It wasn't destructive. It was pure emotion, memories, feelings, sorrow, love, pain, hope. It touched everyone. The soldiers, the drones, even the ships hovering above. They saw what she felt. They felt what she had lived: loneliness, chains, silence, but also kindness from one human. One soul who looked at her and didn't run. One soldier fell to his knees. "She's not evil," he whispered. Another dropped his weapon. "We were wrong." One by one, they all lowered their arms. The order to fire never came, because no one believed in the war anymore. High above, the council ship shook with panic. "She's turning them." The general roared. "She's infecting them with emotion." "She's not using a weapon," said the comms officer. "She's using truth." The general slammed his fist. "Then destroy the mountain now." Missiles launched from the warship. Velrus looked up. Davis whispered, "It's too late." But Velrus's glow intensified. She raised her hands toward the sky, and without hate, without force, she caught the missiles mid-air. The energy around her formed a shimmering shield, vast, beautiful, like a sky of stars. The missiles stopped, crumbled, dissolved into harmless light. Everyone stared. Velrus had just saved them all, including the ones sent to kill her. Hours later, the warships left orbit. They didn't fight. They retreated, because they knew. The galaxy had changed. One act of mercy had shaken an empire. Velrus sat at the edge of the mountain, staring up at the stars. Davis sat beside her, his shoulder bandaged. "You saved them," he said. She didn't reply. "You didn't have to." "No," she said softly, "but I wanted them to see. I was more than what they made me," he smiled. "They saw, and so did I." She turned to him. "You're the first person who ever touched my hand without fear." Davis laughed lightly. "Well, I'm not known for being smart." She smiled too. Then she leaned her head on his shoulder. For once, she felt safe. And free. Months passed. Velrus's story spread across the stars, not as a warning, but as a legend. The monster who didn't fight back. The weapon who saved her. Enemies. The girl who only wanted to be called by her name. Velrus. Children told her story. Artists painted her image, no longer in chains but in light, a symbol of peace, of second chances, of courage. And Davis? He stayed by her side. Not as her guard, not as her rescuer, but as her friend. Maybe something more. One evening, as the sun set over a quiet alien valley, Velrus asked softly, "Do you think they'll ever stop fearing me?" Davis looked at her, with warmth in his eyes. "They don't fear you anymore," he said. "They follow you." She blinked. "What do you mean?" He pointed to the sky. Small lights blinked in orbit, ships arriving from distant worlds. Diplomats, scientists. Peacekeepers, all wanting to meet her. Learn from her. They're not coming to fight, he said. They're coming to listen. Velrus stood slowly. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't chained. The galaxy would finally know her for what she truly was. Not a weapon, not a monster, but the woman who changed everything.